The following program is presented by the Metropolitan Library Service Agency.
Hello, welcome to All About Kids, a program focusing on the interests of children and young people and some of the issues affecting them. Parenting has never been an easy job, but today's parents face many new challenges. Our guests, Ann Ellwood, director and founder of Meld, formerly Minnesota Early Learning Design, and parent facilitators Paul Larson and Joe Moses, will talk with Hennepin County Children's Librarian Rhonda Greenwood about some of the ways their organization help support families in today's society.
Anne, could you tell us a little bit about the program, how it began, and the purpose behind the program?
Yes, as you know, we call it MELD. It used to be Minnesota Early Learning Design, and for a long time the Minnesota doesn't fit, and so we've called it MELD. But we began, I think, really for two reasons. One is that parenting today is just so much different and much more difficult than ever before. We all know the reasons. Parents working, the difficulties of safety and environmental concerns, and the different problems that our children are going to face that we never faced. And there's more information about what babies are like, about the critical nature of the early years. So there's a lot of new things that make it harder and different than before. But I think the other reason is that society has always overlooked the importance of being a parent. I think is the most important thing a society does. And even Mrs. Bush at the Wellesley graduation ceremony said that far more important for the future than what happened in the Oval Office is what will happen inside your own homes as you raise your children. And we believe that, and I think people intuitively believe that. But now I think the whole society is accepting that idea a little bit more. So it's more important how we do this job.
Well, now there are parenting groups that are set up for interested parents, and they're facilitated by volunteer facilitators.
That's right, and these are our volunteer facilitators. Perhaps they could tell us a little bit about what a group is. Typically, we set up a group with the adult program. It's often men and women. We usually meet in a church, a neighborhood church or a religious organization. Meet over a 2-year period, either every other week or every week in the evening, so that people who are working can come. There is a curriculum of information that we provide, and then most important, the most valuable, without which there is no MELD, is the parent group facilitator. And Paul and Joe represent those roles. Maybe they'd like to tell a little bit about their groups.
Currently, I'm involved with Mel Special, who deals with parents who have handicapped children. And it's a 2-year program that is run, and the program basically takes you through a wide variety of topics that we deal with. And the group is very helpful because it provides handles which people can put their emotions on as we deal with handicapped children and how it works in a relationship between siblings, as we work in handicapped children, and also the relationship between your peers and between your families. And also to try to get a handle of the feelings that you have inside. And also it's broad enough that people can deal with a variety of other topics. It's not all specialized in one topic, but it broadens out the whole aspect to give you more of a balanced idea of how the whole thing works. And the curriculum works very well with that. And it also involves a lot of participation by the people who are involved in the groups.
Well, the two things for the project, for me, it's fun and informative at the same time. The 2 years goes by incredibly fast, beginning with the pregnant parents who come in and don't have their kids yet, and they talk about their anxieties and the unknown nature of childbirth and everything. And then 1 week they come up and there are 3 of them instead of 2, and it's fun to share the stories. Of course, one of the things we always do is share the birth story, and it's very that's kind of emotional for me. And And it just seems like it's a real privilege to be a part of that whole process. And then to watch the families grow together, and you see the confidence come out of the parents. They make a transformation from all these unknown things to taking charge, making decisions. And then, of course, our groups support each other, the members support each other in those decisions. And it's just fun to be part of that.
Something I found impressive with the groups is that they are very non-judgmentally based groups, sharing information and supporting one another in the different approaches that people take to parenting. Having been in a MELD group, that's something that I noticed and really appreciated. Is that something that...
That's right. That's one of our first meetings, is to go through a list of rules which the group will work with, and part of those is not to be judgmental, but also be to supportive on everyone, on their different ideas that they might have.
What we really want to do is to present the best and latest information so parents can make choices for themselves in the most supportive environment, so they can gain confidence and solve problems together. I think, I didn't say it, but I think you got the sense of it from Joe, is that we try to collect parents within a very short time span of the birth of the child. They're ideally just a few weeks away from one another, so that if you're concerned about a child biting, you're not concerned about whether the child will sleep through the night. So that the issues that you want to know about, the burning issues and the things that the joys that you have too, are very much in the same category.
Well, now you mentioned the curriculum materials that are available to the parents. How are those used? Is that a basis for the meetings that you have?
We start, when we plan, we start with a rough idea of a topic. We give the parents, we run a list of the possible topics, and they choose the ones they want to talk about. And then Janet and I, my wife and I, and our other co-facilitator meet to rough out an idea of what we want to accomplish. And it's always a rough idea, because you always go with the needs or the interests of the parents during that particular meeting.
We have 5 general areas that we cover. It changes with different kinds of groups, but typically there's child development and health and family management. That's kind of the consumer behavior about safety in the home, how to be a wise healthcare consumer. Another thing is parental growth, because that's very important. As these babies are growing, we as adults grow too as we raise our children. And the last one, health, child development, family management, and then discipline. We call it family management. We call it family management, I guess is the term. But in any event, it's discipline, hidden a little.
Well, now, when you volunteer to be a coordinator or a facilitator, that is a 2-year commitment?
It is a 2-year commitment, and you ask for a pint of blood at the same time.
But having that length of time with a set of families, a group of families like that, is very helpful, though, I would think.
It is very helpful. It sets up a networking. Even though you've gone through a program for 2 years, you still have the relationships that continue on afterwards, and you still have that support that's there, or the phone calls that can continue on. And that's a part of it. It's just the 2 years, but also what happens afterwards is good relationships that are built.
Our original MELD group, the ones that we started as participants in, still meets. As a matter of fact, tonight we're planning a weekend camping trip together.
Oh, that's nice.
So yeah, there's, and then they also ask, how's your new group going? The one that we're facilitating. It's very exciting. It's a part of our life now.
We heard yesterday that someone last fall had registered her child for kindergarten, and on the first day they asked for self-definitions, and she says, well, I'm Janie Smith and I'm a MELD kid.
I think that ongoing relationship with other people helps when families are separated from their extended families in today's society.
That's right, exactly. That's one of the differences, and this helps to make up for that.
Yeah, very much. How do people get to become facilitators? Is it simply a volunteer process, or? No,
it's not. It's a very selective process. I think in different locations we have begun different ways, but when I was involved in the very beginning, we went to a neighborhood and talked to the people in the neighborhood, churches, social service agencies, the schools, the other religious organizations, and said to those people, some of whom we knew, and said, we have this program for young parents, and we're looking for other parents, experienced parents, to facilitate these groups. Who could you identify for us? what young people are very much involved in the parenting of their children. And you'd be surprised if you can take the time to ask lots and lots of questions like that, how often the names tend to collect. And then, of course, you have a compelling argument to go to the people and say, well, the people, your neighbors, your minister thinks that you would be a good facilitator to help other young couples, other young parents. On the other hand, the best way is really emerging from the groups themselves, because they really understand the commitment. And that was the way these two young men have come.
So for me, it was easy to make the transition from participant to facilitator because I knew what Meld was. The people I admire most are the people who haven't been through Meld and yet are willing to give the time to volunteer and not even knowing how wonderful a program they're getting involved in. It was easy for me, and I think it's probably not so easy for others.
Also, I think the growth that you get as a facilitator is very important too. You do grow because you meet different people with different perspectives, and you learn a little bit more from it. And it's more of a self-development also as being involved. You're not focused just with straightforward. You get more of a wide range of dealing just with people.
You get a lot of training about group dynamics, how to manage a group.
Yeah, I was going to ask that.
Yeah, how to be. One of the things that I always say is that it's one thing to smile and be friendly, and it's another thing to reinforce someone else doing that. And they learn how to manage a group, but also how to facilitate the support behavior. It can be done. One can learn how to help other people be supportive of one another, and you can pick that up. Then, of course, they learn how to present the curriculum, but they learn other skills, I think, about listening, sensitivity. I think they're different people. As if somebody said, you two must go home and talk and talk and talk. And I think that's one of the advantages if there's a couple working together. Not all of them are couples, but if there's a couple working together, I think it does enhance the things they have to talk about.
We've talked about what the responsibilities are of the facilitators. When a person is in a Meld group, what is their responsibility to that group when they attend?
From Meld's special point, it's an area of support. It's to be there to allow people to provide their input. Again, as I mentioned before, there are some feelings that they're dealing with. And the support part is there to be able to understand that I'm not alone with the issue that I'm dealing with. I have a handicapped child. I'm not alone with this. And some issues that I'm dealing with, emotional issues, are very common and prevalent in other people of the group. So just to be there and to listen and to support people and to say, yes, your feelings are fine. It's okay to say what you're saying and to get it out. That's what I look at as really important, just to be there and the support that you have.
Okay. And the groups meet twice a month?
Twice a month.
Twice a month, usually? Okay.
In our group, people participate in a variety of ways. Some people talk more than others. Some people share more than others. I don't know that they are obligated in any way along those lines. We try to honor people's individual ways of expressing themselves. Most importantly, it's just we want people to know that this is a forum for you to talk about things that maybe you don't feel comfortable talking about. You know, my kid is. Well, you talk about diapers a lot, right? I mean, you just don't have that many opportunities to talk about your children's bowel movements. But so here's a place where you can do it because it's a very big deal. And so we just want people to know that this is the occasion for you to talk about how hard and how happy life is with children.
You know, I think there are more opportunities for women to talk about diapers. It's much more acceptable. But men deal with these things now, too, are playing much more different roles. And you don't go to work and talk very much about diapers, I suspect. Maybe you do. But at least here's a place where you can deal with some of the feeding problems, some of the wake at night problems, the kinds of things that you really need to talk to somebody about and get some perspective about. One other thing I wanted to point out is this clumsy term. Facilitator is just really difficult, but we've done it on purpose because they're not leaders. They are not there to tell the right way, the one right way to be a parent, but to facilitate parents making decisions for themselves.
Right, which makes it a pretty low pressure job. Right, I mean, you don't have to go in as an expert, and that's a relief. Because that one.
Well, now, I had a question, and I've been in a Meld group, so I kind of know part of the answer. Do the babies come to the meetings? with you, or are there meetings when they don't come?
We start with the babies. Well, it's part of the norms, actually. We throw it out to the parents. Do you want the babies to be there? And usually, well, in my 2 experiences, we want the babies to be there because it's so much fun to watch them grow up. Later, people might vote to have some meetings without the children, so that they can have more content and concentrate better.
Okay.
And for the Meld Special, I think always having the children nearby is helpful, though I think many people couldn't get away, and so we have really fine nurse taking care of the children with some help from others, and I think that's a nice thing for parents. They get a nice safe break and don't have to worry about the child.
And it's still important, and through Meld Special, to see the children, to know what disease they might have or handicap they have, and you can build that relationship and you can identify more with the parent as to what they're dealing with. And it's sort of funny, through Meld Special, every person thinks everyone else has it harder than what they have.
Oh, interesting.
So it's nice to see those relationship in those children. They are special people.
Yeah, and that's a special kind of support in and of itself.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, now Meld has focused. In the beginning, it focused on new parents, and then we have Meld Special. There are several other groups that Meld is involved with. Can you tell us a little bit about those groups?
Yes, we have several different kinds of operations. In the Twin Cities, we have a program called Meld's Young Moms, MIM. That's for teenage mothers. We have a program in Phillips with a Success by 6 program for single adult women. And we have a program for parents who are deaf or hard of hearing that runs in the Twin Cities, and we have Meld Special. We also have a program in Los Angeles. We also do a new program development. And in Los Angeles, we have a program for Hispanic families, young Hispanic families. And in addition, there's a program for Hmong families that we've been just developing. So those things are fun.
Yeah, that's
I was telling them before we began. Last week we had a meeting with some Hmong families with the police department and the child protection workers, and 58 people came from the housing development. And it was very enlightening because they feel misunderstood and are indeed misunderstood, and they're afraid and need the right kind of information, which is really quite culturally different. When their kids get to be teenagers, which is what they're concerned about, is when their children are really eager to embrace American values, and it's very hard for them. So this is a time when they need support. So that's exciting for us as well. We love learning about the different variations too.
Well, can you tell me a little bit about how Meld is funded?
Yes, different ways. For these people, we have parent fees on a sliding fee scale. And typically a church or the place where we meet will offer us free space or very low-cost space, and maybe some help with the child care, things of that sort. And then on the other hand, then we raise, in the Twin Cities, we raise funds to subsidize or to help pay for scholarships for the people who can't pay for the full fare. But then the programs for Meld's Young Moms are paid for by the United Way. The health department pays for a program for inner city teenage moms. Our program for adult women in the Phillips neighborhood has some subsidy from the United Way and other programs. And then we've raised money from foundations and corporations and individuals to start new programs. So it's a variety of income.
So it sounds like a big job, too.
Yes, it is.
In coordinating it.
Yeah.
I was wondering, do you have set ways that you tap into certain organizations so that you can meet in churches and so forth? Is that hard to do, or can it be done fairly easily?
Fairly easily, although I think religious organizations more and more in terms of a meeting space are being called upon, and that's hard on their limited budgets as well. So sometimes they ask for a rental fee or a fee for the janitor, things of that sort. But it's not very much, and it's something that we can usually manage.
Well, something that I have always appreciated about Meld, and I would like to get back to when we're talking about the groups, is one thing that I got out of Meld was information sharing. That was just, the kind of thing that's not written down anywhere, but where to buy the best this and the best that. Oh, have you heard of this pediatrician or this specialist, or whatever. Is that something that goes on in your groups?
All the time.
That's
All the
okay.
time. Sharing of information, and sharing of toys too. Sharing of lots of things. Sure. What do you do with your kids in the afternoon? Well, we go to the museum. We go do this, and how did it go? And so people not only find out where to go, but how things are set up, and whether it's fun or not.
And jobs. People who are looking for jobs get leads from other people who are working
sure.
in jobs.
Oh, that's a nice side benefit too then.
And in Meld Special you get a lot because you work with a lot of government agencies.
Oh, yes.
And you find out no one is an expert. So by having the people come together, by the time you're through a 2-year period, everybody has gone a tremendous amount of area of dealing with the Hennepin County or the state of Minnesota and where to get their services from.
Okay.
And who to get in contact and who to deal with.
So that's especially important for
Very
you.
special and important, yes.
Yeah, one of the things that I particularly appreciated also with Meld was we were able to set up babysitting co-ops and childcare arrangements that because there was not extended family available to most of us, we shared that care, and that was very nice. Is that something that has happened with your groups too?
Well, yeah. The trouble with that is that people will recommend a babysitter, and then there's more competition for that babysitter.
Sure.
But that certainly does happen. Yeah.
In our Meld group, it ended in the 2 years. So my daughter was 2 when it ended, and then we were all still friends. And when I had the second child, he was 3.5 years later. One of the Meld parents took care of my daughter while I had the second child. So that was very nice. Having that sort of network available is very nice.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. And I think in our society where, relationships get pretty separate and desperate, that this is very nice to have available to us.
And it builds a lot of trust that's involved with it. And that's not a word used too much today.
Yeah.
But you do have a lot of trust in the people that are in your individual groups. And you build that trust through your meetings. It's very good.
Some of the some of the greatest memories for me are the car rides home after the meetings, where Jen and I will talk and say, "Oh, I'm so glad so and so said that because now I'm not insane,
Yeah.
I'm not the only person with that problem."
And further than that, though, the facilitators do have professionals that supervise them, so that if a question has arisen that you can't answer, and as you pointed out, you don't have to be the expert, but if the parent materials don't answer it, or if you can't answer it, or no one else in the group can answer it, there's someone that talks to you after every meeting and says, well, how did it go, and what came up, and how can I help you?
Oh,
Well,
so
So the
that's
professional is very much there, but just not
okay.
present in the group.
Oh, now that's something too. I always had that sense that there was someone backing those facilitators and helping them
Oh,
with
yes.
Yeah.
information, and that was nice too.
The support we
Yeah.
get is very important. It makes it fun, and it makes it it's fun, and it's reassuring, and the support is real. Follow-up phone calls. We get phone calls from site coordinators, and how's it going? Do you need anything? And that's very reassuring.
That was something that I always felt was present when we had our group, and I
Although
appreciated
they're
it.
not visible to the parents, they
Yes,
really are very
yeah.
much visible
Yeah.
to the, and their training sessions, in-service training sessions, as well as 40 hours before they begin. So there's a lot of help and training along the way.
Well, now Meld has gone international, I understand.
Well, we had a wonderful experience. Canada, of course, is not really international, but we had a wonderful experience in Germany when a foundation set up by a man's personal fortune tried to find programs around the world that were supportive of very young families, and they came upon us and they came to see us, and it was very exciting, and materials were translated and groups were begun, and it was a little harder there to recruit men, but it proved to be equally useful there. So.
And I understand there's one in Australia? Is
Yes,
that
a
correct?
very small program that we haven't ever been able to travel to because of the expense, but it's in a health department there in Australia.
So you liaison with those people to help
As
replicate
best we
the
can.
programs.
That's not our strongest suit because of the expense involved, as
Well,
you can
sure.
imagine.
Oh, yeah.
So we still have to learn how to do that.
Well, it's interesting, the people who have heard of Meld. It fills a very definite need in our society, I think. And it's interesting to me to be explaining it to people. In the library system, we work with a lot of young families too. And I'll say, have you heard of Meld? And they're just fascinated with the idea.
Oh,
and I think it really fills that kind of need we have for networking and information and peer support, that type of thing.
And we believe that the first 2 years are the most critical about the development of the child, about the parent, language and speech and relationships and patterns that set down before anybody else before you've had had any time to make big mistakes. You have some guidance and some help along the way. And the motivation is just extremely high.
Yes.
That's the time. Everybody really wants to be the finest parent in the world, and they can be.
I think the mission statement of Meld basically puts it out in the area that it's building through peer self-help. And that is very important. I know it was a long time that they worked on that individual mission statement, but it's very apropos, and it works very well through every organization. And I know I've been to the Meld headquarters and seen a pin in the United States map for every group and organization that they have, and it's very impressive. They've done a very good job.
Well, we're awfully glad you started here in Minnesota.
Oh, thank you.
And thank you for visiting with us today. It's been delightful to have you. Thank you very much.
It was a great treasure.
Thank you.
Of Colors and Things by Tana Hoban. This is another wonderful, colorful picture book of Tana Hoban's. In this case, she's talking about different colors and different things. Her colors are luscious and vibrant. The things that she uses are both natural and man-made. In this case, with the green, the lettuce and the apple are natural. The man-made objects are the green plastic glasses and the green bead. All of her colors are luscious and vibrant. On the brown page, she has a whole bunch of different kinds of brown. The ice cream cone, the cone and the ice cream are both brown. The man-made object, the dog in the lower left, is kind of a dull brown. The potatoes and the bag are still a different color brown. The brown paper bag is almost vibrant. The bread and the breadboard on the upper left, there are two different browns in the loaves of bread, a still different brown in the breadboard, and another brown still in the knife. She uses all primary colors, reds, blues, greens. She does not use pink or purple or mauve. Tana Hoban's photographs have been internationally exhibited. She is a true artist in that she makes us see colors and things. This book is for children of all ages.
Of Colors and Things by Tana Hoban, reviewed by Lael Grathwol, Children's Services Librarian at the Excelsior Community Library. Thanks for joining us on All About Kids. Please tune in again.
This has been a presentation of Hennepin County Library in conjunction with the Twin Cities Metropolitan Library Service Agency.